From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher. Their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher. Our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Skripchuk. And our Batman, the master of tools, gadgets, and all things mechanical, our mild-mannered soon-to-be billionaire, Alan Danvers. Their mission, to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them, and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Welcome to the Garage Heroes in Training podcast. I'm going to be the only host for this episode because we're having car issues. Not that everybody's heard that one before. We have a fellow podcaster. We have no idea why somebody wants to start a podcast. We know it's involved. It's not that much fun, but he did. Relatively new to racing. I think a couple of years under his belt. Obviously a big enthusiast. You need to be in order to start one of these things. And the podcast is called Driven to Compete. His name is Carey Rouse, and welcome to the podcast, Carey.
Thank you, Bill. It's great to be here. I'm excited. I know that you've been doing podcasting for a while, so I probably have a lot to learn from you. So I'll make several mistakes along the way as well.
Well, trust me, we make them every day, and if you don't learn from them, then you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
So, intros, probably the worst part about our podcast. We don't do them well. I usually get stuck doing them. It's kind of what I do. So we've turned it into a bit. So what did we miss? Could be professional life, could be driving life. What did we not cover well enough?
Oh, let's see. What I do full time really are two things right now. So I do have a business called Rouse Fit, and I do a mixture of personal training for folks, virtual personal training, meal prep, meal planning. And that also helps athletes with recovery. So I actually sell CBD products to help with sleep recovery and muscle and aches, that type of recovery. So that is kind of on autopilot. And what I spend all my time on is my podcast now. So I will travel to as many tracks as I can this year. And I interview people who like racing or people involved with racing, and just get their story and share it with others. So that's how I'm going about it now. I feel like it will probably morph over time. But since I have normally raced in the SCCA, I, of course, know several people in that organization. So I gone to several of their races and interviewed folks. And I have also been to a BMW CCA weekend racing event. Mm-hmm. And I've also had an opportunity to, at this point, at least just interview one NASCAR driver. Mm-hmm. And that was just because I happen to be in Mooresville, and they're on Mooresville, and I got introduced.
Just grab them off a tree, right?
That's right. They're everywhere. It's amazing. So, that's what I do right now. I'm putting a lot of miles on my Mustang. It's very difficult living out of the Mustang at the track, but I try to do that.
Understood. So yeah. you do the Mustang on the daily-ish / podcast travels, and then your race car is?
Race car is a Mazda 2, and I do an arrive and drive with Chris Taylor Racing. Chris Taylor is an awesome dude out of Austin, Texas. His shop is across the street from Circuit of the Americas.
Yep.
And he's actually developing with somebody else something called Garages of America. So they're putting in car condos there. So if you guys are anyone interested, because I want to definitely put a plug in for Chris, and definitely put a plug in for Garages of America. So you should definitely check that out. I think you can look it up and just Google it. But they have they're going to end up having maybe 150 units out there.
Right.
And they're about to release some more for sale, but it's pretty cool. It's right across the street from Coda, like literally during the races, and he'll just take his golf cart, go across.
Well, since we have one of his cars that we're working on right now as we speak, We know Chris. He's a future podcast guest. I'm not sure he knows that yet, but he will be. And we would like to offer him a potential marketing opportunity for his garages. We prefer to think of them as Garage Mahal. Just that's what we have. A few of our garages around here that are just amazing. So the good ones get Garage Mahal, and I've seen his plans. So if only we were less than 25 hours away,
Yeah,
might make it better.
it's a little far for you guys.
A little bit.
So,
A little bit. Might be a good vacation spot though.
yeah. So the Mazda 2 is what I've been racing. I think I've been in 3 different Mazda 2s though. All Chris's. Just gone through the first one I was in, and then went into another one when we were racing at the national runoffs in Indianapolis. My first year racing, I kind of got lucky and ended up racing at Indy. And some people never get that chance.
Sure. How'd that go?
It was, the good and bad, right? It was more good than bad.
Mm-hmm.
That was my rookie season, and there was 60 cars, and I ended up finishing 30th. So I was very, very happy with that.
I'd be happy doing that. And I've done this more than 2 years, so that's fine.
Yeah, I was super happy with that. Not too happy about like the last day of practice when I spun it, went sideways, got T-boned, luckily in the passenger door, messed up the alignment a little bit. Chris and team fixed that overnight. So I was ready to go the next day, and of course, ready for the qualifying and the racing.
Mm-hmm.
I felt really bad because the individual who ran into me he didn't expect the car to be sideways right there. Right. And it messed up the front of his car, and that was it. It was unfixable for him for that. So I feel really bad about that.
Well, I mean, it's always bad to hit somebody, and it's always bad to be hit. And I'm not quite sure which side of that I like better. I like neither of them at all, but none of them are fun.
Yep. But that was exciting.
Excellent. So 2 years in, you started HPDEing with SCCA, or how did you get rolling?
So I'm 51 now, and I was 49 when I finally decided to, just like you said, just do it. Just do it. Mm-hmm. I've been wanting to race for decades, been wanting to race, and always had an excuse. And I didn't feel like I had them anymore. In fact, when I decided to start racing, I was unemployed. So I was going to do it no matter what. And everyone told me, look, just do a driver's education, right? Feel it out, see what you like, see if you like pushing a car in those situations. I drive a Mustang GT, and I decided to take it out to a track for a DE event put on by one of the track day organizations here in Texas, but they have events all over the US. And I went up to Crescent, which is a track south of Fort Worth. Mm-hmm. So my very first time on a track. Of course, I absolutely loved it, and nothing bad happened to the car. But I was decided at that moment that I'm absolutely going to race. And I think the very next thing I did was find who I should connect with, and that was Chris. And then I rented his race car. I think he let me take it out to another local track here in the Austin area called Harris Hill. Mm-hmm. And we took it for a half day or full day or something for me, just to kind of get used to the Mazda 2. And then, within a month of me doing that one DE and then the one day in the race car, we went to driver's school in MSR Houston, and it's 3 days to get your competition license. Mm-hmm. So I got my competition license at the end of the 3 days. I had maybe one other time to get on the track at Harris Hill with Chris. And then within a month, I was racing. We went to Homestead and Sebring, and they were back to back, which makes for an awesome trip down to Florida mm-hmm. in January. Beautiful, beautiful weather. And I don't know, that first race at Homestead, it was a perfect place for me because it wasn't that hard. It wasn't complicated really.
Right.
But and there wasn't that many people there. So I didn't realize it's pretty good to finish in a top 5 in a Mazda, because Mazda will pay some contingency money if you finish in the top 5 in a Mazda.
Yep.
And I got lucky. Let's just say, you're learning about trying to look at flags and things like that, and look at cars that are faster than you, because I'm definitely one of the slowest cars on the track, because it's usually a mixed class. They're usually with the production cars is how they mix us, but sometimes they put us with even faster cars. But anyway, I didn't even see the white flag. I didn't even see it. I'm on the last lap. I don't know it's the last lap. And I'm in 6th place at the moment. And I made a pass on the last corner on the last lap and slipped into 5th place and actually won some money my very first race.
Look at you, pro driver.
Yeah, but haven't got close to that since.
That's okay.
Ignorance
is bliss, man.
Yeah. So it was great. And then, we had Sebring the week after that. So I spent some time visiting friends in Florida. So really enjoyed the experience so far. Usually get out to 7 to 8 races every year, the last 2 years. And then this year, I decided to put that on hold for 2 reasons. One is money. And I think most people that race understand that. And the other reason is I really do want to focus on this podcast. I'm really, really busy at the tracks trying to convince people to give me some of their time. And sometimes that's difficult, because if they got anything going on with their car, they need to take care of that, not talk to me.
Yep. You're a distant second.
That's right.
Exactly.
So, and then finding a place to set up is always interesting as well.
Yeah, background noise can be fun.
Yeah.
So you set the hook with a 5th place cash paying position at your race. So that's taken care of. Quick kind of sidetrack back a little bit. Is there any changes to your fitness program that you've had to adapt now that you've driven a car? Because we all know that driving a car is easy and it's not athletic at all, and there's no physical fitness required in doing this. Just ask anybody. So
I wouldn't say I've changed my routine. I've had several people talk to me about what I do for fitness as it relates to racing. Now, I am in a pretty slow car, so I'm not fighting 5 Gs with my helmet on every corner.
No.
If I was, I would definitely be working out my torso and my neck a lot more than I do. But my normal regimen is pretty intense. I do a lot of cardio, and I spend a lot of time on my bicycle riding. And if it's a good week, 100, 120 miles on the bicycle. And here in Austin, Texas, it can get pretty hot, which helps you acclimate to the hot conditions inside of the car. And then I try very, very hard to try to get in 5 workouts a week, 1 for each body part. I figure my legs are worked out enough on the bike, but I get 5 other body parts done in the gym, lifting as heavy as I can.
Okay, so I have a request for you. So after either we talk you into it or you figure out how to do it yourself, I want you to see if that answer changes when you do an endurance race. Yeah.
I can tell you one thing. I've done 1 endurance race, but it wasn't even that long. I think for me, I was in the car an hour and 15 minutes or something like that.
You're just getting warmed up, man.
Yeah. It was a situation where it was a short endurance race, and I didn't have a co-driver, so I just did the whole thing. But you know what came up is I was cramping in the muscle in the front of my left shin, hovering my foot over the clutch, For an hour and a half, just it started to cramp up, and I was having to do all kinds of weird stretches in the straights to try to keep my foot from completely cramping up.
It has just begun, sir.
Yeah.
It's fun though. Okay, so racing, goals, bucket lists, tracks, series, cars.
I want to climb and go as far as I can do, and ride and drive as many cars as I can. And it's really, I'm just limited by money. So as that picture changes for me, I'll do more. I've only raced a front wheel drive car, and that is not what I normally drive. And so the rules to keep the car from spinning are different.
A little bit.
And it took almost the full 2 years to where I got more comfortable to not let off the gas when I'm going around those corners in the front wheel drive car. I can't tell you the number of times I've always spun like once, it seems, every time I go to a track, and I'm just getting sick of that. But I want to start driving some rear wheel drive cars. I've never even driven a Miata, so I feel like the next car that I'll drive, I don't know how soon I'll be racing it, but I would love to get into Miata. And a great opportunity here is the Harris Hill racetrack nearby. I can rent one from Chris and get out there, because it's what I intuitively know, my body, my reactions, and things like that. And so I'm curious to see how that goes. In terms of tracks, ones I want to get to, I do kind of want to see how scary it is at Atlanta.
It is.
I've heard great things about. Went to VIR, but I haven't raced it. And Mid Ohio, I heard good things about that. I mean, I want to get to as many tracks as possible. There is no limit. There is no limit to the number of types of cars I want to get in and the number of tracks I want to go to. For my favorite track, the flowiness of it, and is Eagles Canyon Raceway, or Eagles Canyon Ranch in Decatur, Texas. It's a private track.
I'll be there in a week.
Yeah, I think you will really, really like it. That I love that track. In terms of facilities, I went to Road America, and my Lord, it is so nice there. It is so perfect. I mean, it's been there forever, but everything looks like it's brand new. And I know they just resurfaced the track, and I'm really wanting to get on the track, but it's just not going to happen this year. But I will probably go up in June for the June sprints for the SCCA that they have up there, and interview folks. It's a huge draw. It is one of the only tracks that I've been to where the locals actually love it, and they come and pay to watch. Whereas a lot of tracks are, in threat of getting shut down with, people who live near the track. But it's just the opposite there.
Yep, it's a good Miss Western town. We haven't been there yet. Vicky was going to try to go this fall, but we're not sure it's going to work out. But we'll get there. So one of the things that's often overlooked is when you're racing, you're not just driving, especially if you're, all by yourself. Even if you're part of a team, there's several positions. You've got the data person, the video person, the management of the car. There's the mechanic. There's, this thing called food and drink, and the paddock. We call it paddock queen because usually it's either my wife or her sister. They're the best at it. Which ones are you good at, and which ones could you need a little help?
Well, I don't do anything mechanical with the car. So, I mean, I'm good at putting gas in my car, and that's about it. I don't do anything else. Okay. It's not that I'm against it, it's just that I'd rather spend my time doing something else. So I like the driving part. I have a Garmin in the car, so I get to see the video from that. Plus, we have video from the onboard cameras, and then looking at data. you know, we have folks on the team that help with data, and also all the drivers are always comparing on how they're doing with this corner or that corner. So that I've really enjoyed, but I also know that usually there's something going on with one of the cars, and so it's usually all hands on deck to try to get those things ready.
Yep.
And most of the time, it's the drivers who are spending time trying to help coach each other. You know, if we're on the same team, just try to understand where each of us is faster in a certain area and what in the world are we doing.
That's part of the question sometimes. What are we doing?
You know, I would say for food, it's whatever you can find. I usually am a little strange with the food that I bring, but I'm just trying to eat as good as I can. But it's not easy at a paddock.
No. The selections are usually minimal.
Yeah.
So my beautiful bride is trying to save me by fixing our car right now, so she doesn't get to ask her favorite question. But her favorite question is, do you have a racing philosophy? That could be something you tell other people. It could be something you tell yourself when you're going out on track. It could be, you know, off track. This is what I think about. It could be anything, really.
Yeah, I do. And it's kind of the same philosophy I have with just how I live every day and how I focus on my fitness. And that is just try to be better in some way than you were yesterday.
It's a good one.
And you can always find something to improve on, and focus on that. Be better than you were yesterday. Record it as a win, and use that as momentum to keep going for the next day. So all these little wins really matter. And so for me, at some point in time, I'm going to say, yeah, for me, a good day today is if I win. But
Yep.
Right now, a good day for me is I drop my time by a 10th. You know, so I think if people focus on that, they're always focusing on getting better, and also they're providing themselves with, really incentive and a reason to keep going.
Indeed. So, sir, why did you start the podcast, and what are your goals with the podcast?
Well, as I was doing the one business, Rouse Fit, I of course like fitness, but I realized that I'm more into fitness for myself sometimes than I realized I was for other people. I still help a few clients, but I've not really reached out to find new clients. And then I had to do a little bit of introspective to understand why that was happening. So I spent a lot of time talking to friends and family, and thinking about what really makes me happy. So it all comes down to what really makes me happy. And I look back at my life, and the things that have made me the happiest are competing, being competitive, and winning. And by winning, I mean being better than I was yesterday in some cases, and other cases it was actually winning against somebody else. But those things have really been where I'm happiest in life. And I'm telling you what, racing cars satisfies just about every single one of those. And so I wanted to focus on the racing community and be more and more involved with the racing community. And I thought a good way to do that, to also help people understand that I exist and that I want to be involved with it, is a podcast, because it's possible to develop relationships. People come to know me based upon seeing me over and over again with my guests. And what I'd like to do with it is find a way to serve those people that are part of my audience. So what I try to do with most of my interviews is I'm always asking a lot of questions and finding ways that are issues that they're having to overcome, or issues that they're trying to fix themselves because there's not a solution out there for it. And I feel like there's an opportunity for me to help that group of folks that are part of my audience once I really get to know them and we develop trust.
So your goal is to what with the podcast? What do you want your listeners to
Well,
get
I
from
don't. Well, right now, I think that's going to morph. Right now, I just want people to understand more about the race. How do people get started?
it?
A
Mhm.
lot of people, I found it surprising that most of the people I've talked to, many of them have the same story. Some friend says, "Hey, did you know you can take your car to the track?" And they're like, "No, I didn't know that." And so many people started that way.
Right.
So sharing that bit of news with fans who are interested in racing but didn't know that they can do it, but also sharing the stories with other people who are racing, because a lot of the folks I race, they're listening in to the stories of the other folks that they see them on track, because they didn't know how that person got started.
Right.
So
Right.
it's really just sharing the stories on how people got started. And, every once in a while you'll uncover something completely different, still related to racing, but it's still very, very interesting for the folks that are listening.
Mhm.
So I'm going to continue to do that and really collect stories. And I do see the possibility for my podcast to turn into more of a live at the event. You just got off the track. Tell me about your experience, that type of thing.
Mhm.
Because I can only ask somebody their story maybe once. And other than that, I have to think of something else, because I do think that I'll be interviewing some of the same people over and over again, but I'll have to have a different reason to do that.
Yep. Those are fun though. That's a good time. So we've got you by a couple podcasts. I think we're a couple ahead of you right now. Is there anything that we could help you, or any of the problems that podcast we could help you with?
I always like cross promoting, so
We
that's
got
what
that covered.
that's
This
right.
is part 2 of the Home and Home series.
That's right. So no, it's just really the cross promoting, letting people know that that my podcast exists, and if they like it, I would love for them to subscribe. I do have the podcast. It's going to be on all the platforms, Driven to Compete, but I also have a YouTube channel. So I do, as long as I don't screw up the video, which I've done a few times. I will have the same number of episodes on my YouTube channel as I do on all the podcasts. And it's also called Driven to Compete. But if you're using on YouTube the @ symbol and then the name, it's @Driven to Compete 1. There's a long story on why I had to choose that, but that's the one I had to choose.
I'm looking for it right now. Driven to
Yep.
Compete 1. New subscriber. Very well. I didn't know it was there. All right. Well, that is not the only offer we have. If you need help, we've already talked a couple times, so it's fine. And the biggest thing I would ever say to somebody doing a podcast is to get a work habit flow, because I've gone from, I think when we started, it was like 3-to-1 podcast time to edit time. So if the podcast was an hour, it was 3 hours of editing minimum. And now I've got it to where it's under. So that saves you a lot of time, especially as the episodes start to pile up.
Captain's log supplemental.
Miss Vicky.
Yes, sir.
You know what?
What?
I've been thinking about the Sentinel system.
Yeah. Tell me about the Sentinel system.
So what I was thinking was, we have the one car that's got the aim dash that's slowing us down, because installing the aim dash it probably is easy, but it's quite hard the first time, and we haven't figured that out yet. The Sentinel system is really easy to set up. So what I was thinking was, why don't we put it in the Lemons car, and we'll worry about the aim data information separately, and we'll kind of break it down into a project, because then we'd have the motorsports video system that we really, really want, and we'd be able to stream it. We just won't have the data inside, but we have the data outside, so we can combine them later. But I think that's a really good solution.
So what does this Sentinel system do?
Well, if it had the AIM data, it would have all the data on the screen and you could see all their telemetry and everything live. But we'd be able to not only record it for viewing after the race, but we could actually watch our car during the race.
Ooh, like on the monitor and everything?
On a monitor, if you were at home and I was at a track, or if you were at the track and I was at home, depends on who gets the little short straw, but we'd be able to watch each other.
It's something I've always wanted to do.
And you know what? If you're driving, you know what you can do on the Sentinel system?
What's that?
You can communicate to me with your hands, and I can't do a thing about it.
Even better.
So, if you need to give a wave or a Jersey wave, whatever you need, we could save it and see it on the screen. And then you can have up to 3 different cameras, and it'll have picture in picture. You'll have the basic main shot out the front window, and then 2 cameras where you put them wherever you want. One could be on the driver, or one could be on the rear view. It's kind of cool.
Then we can upload it onto YouTube.
We could bore millions of people on YouTube.
I love it.
All right. Very well. You know what the only downside I see about this?
What?
Your mom and my mom are going to be panic stricken the entire weekend watching this thing to see if everything's going well.
This is true.
We probably shouldn't tell them.
I like the idea of having a Sentinel.
Mm-hmm. Well, luckily we have maybe 2. Depends on how things go. We're going to try. All right. That sounds like a plan. That's the project. We got to get that ready for the next race.
Sounds great.
All right. Very well. Thank you, ma'am. So since you want to know weird things and different things, we have a solution, and we call it the Fast and Furious Storytime Questions. And we're going to subject you to these. So they don't necessarily have to be fast. They are not copyrighted and in any way dealing with street racing or anything with any movie that may have a similar title. It's just that the stories can be fast and sometimes they're furious, and that's why they're stories. So the simple one that we start with always is, what was your first car and what was the worst car you've ever had?
The first car was probably the worst car. It was
usually is.
I think it was like a 78 or something like that, baby blue station wagon that had the sticker on the side of wood paneling.
Oh, that's good stuff.
And the seats of death in the back, like if you roll down the window and it just sucks in the exhaust to the seats that like face each other in the back of the station wagon. That thing was, and I would normally have to travel with several quarts of oil. And literally when I had to put gas, every time I put gas in, I put a quart of oil in it. So
yeah, it's a 2-cycle engine, right?
That's right. Yeah. So that was the first and probably the worst.
Sounds like lemon's gold, though.
Yeah. I'm sure it would be something else to be driving that out there.
A fine wood grain finish, it's good stuff. Good stuff.
Some of it was peeled, but the rest of it was so nice.
Oh, no, that was splintered, not peeled. Splintered.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so what is one thing that few people know about you that would surprise them? We've had some weird answers to this question.
Yeah, I've had this question before. So about 8 years ago, I had congestive heart failure.
Oh, that's not good for a fitness guy.
No, it's not.
It's not good for anybody, really. I mean,
But had it not been for the physical state I was in at the time, I probably would have died. This is before COVID, but I got a virus. And I just had horrible flu-like conditions for a week. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't hardly move. I was on Tylenol 3 every 4 hours and antibiotics. Nothing was working. And finally, about a week in, my shoulder was hurting so bad. I just couldn't bear the pain anymore. So I went to emergency room. They did an EKG, and I had people all over me within a minute or so. And so I had gone into congestive heart failure, and they kept me in ICU for 3 or 4 days to stabilize me, and then regular hospital bed. And it was just, I asked them, what happened? And they just said, well, you're unlucky. I said, well, was it a killer virus? I said, no, it was just a normal virus, but sometimes things like this happen. So completely unlucky. But I talked to a cardiologist about it afterward, and he was, really surprised that I made it through the way I did. And it was just because probably the shape I was in. At that time, I was really, really working out hard all the time. So that helped.
Yeah. That's one thing I found when I was at the EC. I've been there many times, unfortunately, but you want a certain amount of attention at the EC, but you don't want too much attention, because then things are bad. Like when they start coming in and the doctors start pointing to you and pointing to the X-ray, and then more doctors, that's usually things aren't going your way that day. So I'm sure you had something similar with yours.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your race car number? Why? And do your cars have names?
I'm going to get in trouble for not knowing the number. It's changed several times, so that's why I'm having a difficult time. I can't remember if it's 23. The livery of the last car that I had was done up like one of the Days of Thunder cars.
Okay.
The trickle.
Cold Trickle.
Yeah. So they had my name, Carey, and then Trickle on the end of it, and it was the same livery, same number, and that's what I was driving, the Mazda 2, and there was no name for it, I don't think.
46 maybe?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Or 51?
No, 46 sounds right.
46, okay. All right, I'm just working from memory here.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on the podcast we just recorded, we talked about front wheel drive and rear wheel drive, so we can skip that one. Do you have a car that got away?
Like, I'm sad that I let it go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've had a lot of Mustangs over the years, and I had the last year they built a Cobra before, the GT 500s and all that stuff. And I can't remember the year, maybe 2003, maybe. But it was a beautiful red Cobra, and had a turbocharger on it or something. And I love that car. It was, but I would tell you that the clutch on that thing was like, when I first started using it, was bruising the bottom of my foot because it was so hard to push the clutch in. And I was in Dallas at the time, and I was just about to move to a suburb where I was going to be forced to commute and stop and go traffic every day for like 45 minutes each direction.
Yep.
And I just couldn't do it. And I sold it. I had a lot of fun in that car. Traded it in for some automatic something, but not a Mustang. So yeah, that one got away from me.
So living in Dallas, the appropriate question is which loop?
I was going to end up living in Louisville
and
working downtown. So
we did the Richardson to South Dallas commute. That was no fun.
Gosh, I just went through Dallas yesterday. The best time is 9 p.m. on a Sunday.
Never. Yeah, there was no good time. What is the coolest car ever? Not the best car, coolest car.
Well, I really think the coolest cars for me are Lamborghinis, and I couldn't even tell you a particular model. I would just say the newer, the better.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the one question that drives Vicky up a wall, which means it will never, ever, ever come off the list. Suppose that we win the lottery and we want to give back to all our podcast guests, and we're going to have an island. We're going to have a deserted island. We're going to build a racetrack. We're going to have a racetrack that has asphalt and another one that's dirt. And to give back to all our podcast guests who have put up with us for sometimes several hours, we want to give them and have 5 cars prepped and ready for your arrival, for you to have fun. What cars do we need to have there for you?
Well, because I've really grown to it. Well, first of all, do I get to race with other people that are?
Of course.
Okay, good. not just by myself.
Nope.
So,
No HPDs on our island.
yeah, I'll go with on the low end, I'll have a Mazda 2. And then, because I've really enjoyed racing with the B Spec group. And then I definitely want to do a Spec Miata because super, super competitive, and would love to spend some time doing that. Let's see, I have a friend who drives a BMW. So I don't think I know all of the models, but maybe a newer E46.
Okay.
So one of that. I would want a really nice Porsche, right? I couldn't even tell you which one's the best one, but that
some people would say they're all the best one, but
yeah, I don't think they're all the best one. Again, for me, newer is better.
Okay.
And then in terms of on a track,
or dirt. Don't forget we have dirt.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about dirt. Well, mate, can I just choose to stay on the track?
Sure. It's your it's for you. It's whatever you want.
I would stay on the concrete, I think. Okay. So asphalt. I think I would go with something like a McLaren.
Oh, very nice. Okay. As long as you don't have to repair it, right?
That would be true for all these.
Of course. Absolutely. Okay. We have a new question on this, and it is has not been asked yet. So you're the trial. We're going to see how this goes. Okay. What is your favorite driving song or favorite song pre-race, if you're one of those people?
I am a EDM music lover, electronic dance music.
Yeah.
That's all I listen to. And maybe if I were to listen to a song that would get me all excited, it would be Levels is the name of the song by Avicii.
Okay. All right. I'm familiar. Not my particular go-to genre of music, but I am familiar. Let's see. What would your ultimate road trip be to and from, and in what car? Not tracks, but road trip.
I really like driving. I'm one of those people that would have enjoyed the early days of Cannonball. So someplace where I could get up to speed and stay up to speed. So the windy country roads don't really do it for me.
Okay.
I actually like the interstate. So some way to get from here to maybe California.
Okay. And we could do the one lap. Come with me. Let's go play.
Yeah. That would be something else, really. So yeah, for me, it's kind of an interstate highway with just enough traffic, so you have to change lanes pretty often, but you're never slowed down.
Okay. So yeah, not Dallas.
Not Dallas. Like I said, if I go through there at a weird time, it's okay, but most of the time, no.
Those weird times are very rare. Okay, yeah. I've got two more for you, and then we'll do the rest of them on another future episode. Okay. Vicky's sister Jennifer's favorite question is, what is your favorite car movie or car from a movie of all time?
Gosh.
Could be TV shows too.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I couldn't name a car, but I actually really enjoyed the Fast and the Furious movies.
Okay.
Yeah, so and I don't know if one of those cars would be the favorite car, but I will tell you that in all cases for me, almost always the newer cars are better for me than the old. I know there's some beautiful old cars,
right,
but I'm just not nostalgic that way. I want something new.
So Mr. Diesel's car would not be your choice then?
Right.
Okay, very good. All right, last one for this episode until future episodes come in. We have this thing. Just picture, remember the game that they used to have, and it was a claw, and you'd move it around, and then you go bloop, and you pick something out. Okay. So which car would you love to switch into that you've raced against or raced in the past? And at what track? You want that car from that person. Which car do we get the claw, grab their racing helmet, pull them out, and plop you in? And at what track?
So Since I've only driven B Spec, it would definitely be another B Spec car. It would have to be because that's all I've raced against. And I would say that it might be a red Mini Cooper owned by Steve Introne, who's the current national champion in B Spec, who won the last race for the championship at VIR.
Mhm.
I know he's a really good driver.
Right.
I'm sure it's a really good car too. So it'd be interesting. I've never driven a Mini. Something I would like to do because four-wheel independent suspension, which is different than what a Mazda 2 is.
Right.
So yeah, that'd be interesting to give it a shot.
Cool. So you left out what track you're going to do. Are you going VIR? Are you going Eagles Canyon? Going someplace new?
I maybe somewhere in California, maybe Sonoma.
Okay.
Yeah, that might be nice.
That's not a bad thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So you picked a no excuses car, so you're going to know if it's you or not, right?
That's right.
Very well. All right, sir. Well, this is the second half of the home and home. We'll work out the release timing, but we'll make that happen. And we do appreciate you tolerating us on your podcast, and you were a pleasure to have on our podcast.
It's been great. I enjoyed it, and I've got some good ideas from your format.
Excellent. Excellent. So just to make sure everybody, it'll be in the episode notes, just to make sure everybody can find you. Best ways to find and keep up with what you're up to and keep abreast of podcast and YouTube and all that good stuff.
Yeah. If you just Google Driven to Compete, I've got a website, driventocompete.com. On there are links to everything else, which is the YouTube channel called by the same name. And you'll find that when you search through any of the podcast platforms, Driven to Compete. I'm currently not really playing around in Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I've kind of gotten worn out with those platforms, and I'm sticking with YouTube, podcasts, and the website.
Sounds like a plan, sir. Well,
Awesome.
until potentially we see you at Eagles Canyon in a week, maybe. We'll never know. I don't know what the schedule's like. And we will talk with you again, listen to you on your podcast, and look forward to talking to you in the future. And hopefully my beautiful bride, Miss Vicky or Jen or somebody else can come, because we're having a disaster in the hangar right now. So
yeah, hopefully you guys get that fixed. I'm interested to talk to Vicky.
yeah, it'll be fun, and we'll get it fixed. Just the stress levels. We have never not made it. We just made a debacle out of getting there. But if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing, I guess. So we do. Nice meeting you again, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.